La 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 la. Screen peeking. Bop bop bop.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 49 of Screen Peeking, a monthly podcast where my cousin Ziggy and I get together to talk about video games and anything video game related. Today's show is full of all kinds of things that we can talk about. There's so much, we just don't
Big
even know
one.
how we'll get the time. Yeah, there's so much. So we're going to be talking about Microsoft potentially acquiring Activision Blizzard. We're talking about Bungie being acquired by Sony, and our game of the year, a bunch of stuff. This episode is going to be full of things, so look forward to that. And we're going to start today's episode as we always do. It is a new year, so Ziggy, what have you been playing since the last month? In the last month that I've haven't seen you or talked to you.
Yeah, I've been a lot of my usual stuff, honestly. So I don't really have much to say on that front. I've been continuing playing through The Last of Us with Tesla, which has been very cool. Um God, The Last of Us 2 plays so fucking well. Like
Yeah.
I forgot but also didn't forget like just how good the stealth of that is. And I've been playing on like a harder difficulty this time too, so I've upped the ante from the first time I played it, which just
Mhm.
makes it even more fun. Like there's been a lot of times where I've been at like 0 health and just haven't had a health kit, and then getting into an encounter with no health and no health kits is just so fucking tense, where you're like ducking in and out of stealth and taking guys out, and then like while you're in combat scrounging up resources until I
Yeah.
finally get like an alcohol and a cloth. I'm like, oh shit, and then dive in cover and craft it real quick, and like just how good that feels. It's awesome. Um
Yeah.
then I've been
Prone was
playing
such a great
a
addition.
God, yeah, no, seriously. Going from the first game to the second game, uh like having prone and having like tall grass to walk through makes the stealth feel so much more fluid. It's insane. Um I played a bit of a spookware, which is I'm digging it pretty heavily. It's basically WarioWare, um, but it's got a cool sort of like Halloweeny spooky theme to it. With starting like these three skeletons that I think are fun. It's just like cute and fun. It's got
Hmm.
pretty funny writing, I think. Um, and it I think captures that kind of like WarioWare charm pretty damn well with like a totally different vibe, which I think is cool. Um, so if you're looking for a game like that, that's a solid pick, I would say. Played bit of Boomerang X, which somehow I mean, it's on my radar. I just never played it. Um, it is a new like movement shooter, basically from Devolver, where you only have technically it's a glaive, not a boomerang, but you only have that, and you can like throw it and like pull yourself to it and use it in a lot of different ways. Um, I think it's the core mechanics are really fun and really well developed, I think, but I think the level design and like the enemy design doesn't support it super well. So like I was having fun at first, but basically you just go from like an arena and then fight like 5 or 6 waves of enemies, and then you go to the next arena and fight 5 or 6 waves. So it's just like kind of
Yeah.
uninspired from a like level design front, and has little to like kind of push me to keep going. Like basically the whole game is just that core gameplay, which it's good enough to kind of support it, but I do wish there was a bit more there. Um and then the other one I'm missing some time into is Mind Scanners, which is our game club game, and so we'll get to that in a minute. But Nick, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I think I mean haven't been playing too much new stuff. This last month has been pretty busy. I haven't really talked about it on the show, but I want to have a kid at the end of May, so that's super exciting. And so it's just been a lot of planning, getting the nursery ready and stuff like that. With what time I've had though, yeah, played some Mind Scanners. I made sure to play a couple, a few hours of that. And I played Nobody Saves the World. Um,
How's that?
it's it's fun. I I'm not gonna finish it. I got really close,
Mm,
but now I've gotten to the point where like I even had a few mornings, where you have a few hours, just like you're like grinding away. You're like, so the point of the game is really just unlocking forms. That's how you level up, and like all the ways
mm.
to unlock a new form is taking your current form or a few like lower rank forms from F rank to D, C, B, A, and then S tier. And depending on what letter grade you get to, let's say you need to get the mermaid to rank B, and then it'll branch off to 2 other forms, and then those forms, if you can get both of them to rank C or something, then they'll get this next one. So it kind of like has a little bit of a web path, and you're unlocking new forms, and that's addicting. That's fun because they all have totally different moves, different ways to play. They all give you passives and active attacks, and you can swap them between different characters as you unlock them. So maybe you have a mermaid's like protective bubble that kind of recoils damage back to the enemy, and you put that on the bodybuilder guy. And so like if you want, you can kind of mix and match those abilities, and that is addictive. I find that very, very fun and creative way to like build your own creatures or characters that you really like. Besides that though, it just kind of started to fizzle off after a bit, early mornings of playing that. And then I got back into Outer Worlds recently. I'm not going to finish that one again, but it was fun just jumping back into it, as it's been a long time, like back since it launched. So I kind of jumped back into that to play it a bit. But really, I've just been like keeping my eye on Elden Ring and just looking forward to when that comes out. And I guess Horizon Forbidden West a week before that, so I'll be playing that too. But yeah, just like I got a couple weeks left, and then it's just going to be games like crazy. So just doing all the adult stuff.
Sometimes when you have like a game that you're that excited for, like that on the horizon, it's hard to like play anything because the only thing that you want to play, is like Elden Ring or whatever. Like that's how I was at that, like the weeks before that, the great game day of 2020, where it was like Doom Eternal. Oh fuck, what was it? It was Doom Eternal, Animal Crossing, and then Half-Life Alyx like 2 days later.
Right.
Which I was like, I didn't want to play anything before that. I was like, I just want to play Doom, man. I just want to play Half-Life. Like that's all I want. Yeah, I was in that weird sort of zone.
Yeah, there's like for me, I've been playing through all the Souls games leading up to this, or like almost all of them, right? Like not Demon Souls. I probably won't do Bloodborne just because it's 30 FPS, and I want to wait until there's like an actual like update to that. Just because it's been so long already, I might as well wait for something like that to happen. I'm sure there'll be a breaking point at some point, but I'm not committed to doing it anymore before Elden Ring comes out. But now it's like, I've finished Sekiro. I've done all that. I'm posting my videos on this channel of the streams, all condensed and cut up into smaller bite-sized videos. And I'm like, so now I don't really have more to play unless I go and play Bloodborne, which I guess that might end up happening. I don't know. We'll see. But it's like I don't really have another From Software game to play, and I was thinking it would lead me right up to the launch, but I guess it's good I finish early than not at all.
I'm honestly impressed that you managed to get. I didn't think that you'd make it all the way, to be honest. Like, not that I didn't
well, I did
believe
cut
in you,
Bloodborne
but that is true. But that is like, that's a lot of games. It's a big undertaking. So I'm kind of surprised that you managed to get through all that, especially when it's like that many games of the same genre in a row. I feel like for me personally, I would start to get pretty like tired pretty quick on that.
Oh, I'm addicted.
True. Good point.
I just can't get that high anywhere else. I honestly, like, something about those games, I just like I can't get enough of them. And they could keep adding DLC to Dark Souls 1, and I would just keep playing that forever, right? Like the way they play, I just enjoy each and every one of them and how unique each one is, even though they are very similar on a surface level. I just like them all. And then the last game I played in this month was it's like we got to play a game early, so can't talk about it. So haha, suckers. No. And then you're going to be able to play that this month as well. So that I'm looking forward to eventually talking to you about that.
I sent in my application for that. I haven't heard back from that publisher yet, but
look in your promotions folder in your emails, because that's where it goes for me.
I'm gonna do that right now.
But yeah, that's kind of about it for me. Just really looking forward to some more Souls, some more Elden Ring.
Are you gonna play Final Fantasy Origins Stranger in Paradise?
I actually do want to. I think I want to. I want to.
Alongside me.
Wait, when does that come out?
Next month.
So I forgot about it. No, wait, really? It comes out in March? Huh.
March 18th.
See, I 100% will play it. Will I spend the limited money when I'm trying to buy stuff for the kid? I don't know
Yeah,
about
that's
that,
super
right?
fair.
Like I'm only getting Horizon and Elden Ring. Well, I would have gotten Elden Ring regardless. I did budget for that, but but I'm only getting Horizon because of a gift card at Christmas. So
Mm,
like, there's
mm.
no way I would have been able to otherwise. But who knows? Maybe it'll go on sale and I'll be able to get it sometime. But probably not at launch. I definitely want to play it though. It looks like a great meme game, and it looks like something
This
I would
looks
have a.
fun.
It also looks like combat wise and stuff. It looks like something I could get into. It
Yeah.
because I mean I really like Neo, right? And it I just think it'd be a good time. I think it'd be a fun stream game for sure. But
The
yeah, we'll
latest
see.
trailer on it hit that like perfect sweet spot for me of like Nomura hits that so well of like stupid like meme shit like you're saying, but also like
Hmm.
just enough like genuinely good story hooks to make me like actually invested in what's happening while also being able to like laugh at it, you know? Um
Yeah,
like and also just it looks buck wild. There's like Frank Sinatra in the latest trailer for some reason, which means fucking whatever the main character's name is, Jack or something. He has the most diverse
yeah.
music taste from man from like Slipknot to Frank Sinatra. Um, but I can't fucking wait for that game.
Um, should we get into our game of the year? Like
That
we've
is such a good idea.
it's now February 3rd for us as of this time of recording. We meant to record
Yeah.
this last week and try to do a January episode. But so for those who don't know, our game of the year, Ziggy will say what his is. I'll say what mine is. It's not a we don't have to agree, and it is
Mhm,
based off of any game that has launched in 2021. Um,
mhm.
we're not
Yeah.
including any like standalone expansions or any like it's just like a full game
Doesn't
got
look like
released,
any of
right?
those are on our
Yeah.
list. Yeah.
What about live service? Is that included?
Uh I mean I don't think that there's any on our list, right? Of games that
No, I don't think so.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we don't really need to worry
Do
about that
we
too much. But yeah,
do we have
games
a
that launched in
document
2021.
of games that came out this year or
That's a good
2021?
question. We have
Uh,
our game theater document here. I have it pulled up.
what's it called? Do I have it?
Game of
I
the
think.
Year podcast 2021. You put your stuff in
Oh
it,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah,
assume you have
yeah.
it.
I see it. I
Okay.
see it.
So we got a few
Oh,
categories here. How we've
right.
done in the past is we both say our pick, and then we will fight to the death over which one should win overall. Um, which some of these I imagine are going to be pretty one sided. Um, but yeah, so let's get into that first category, which is going to be best story. Best story this year. Nick, do you have a nomination for this one?
What? You know what? Just give me a second. My headphones are crackling like crazy, and I can't hear you
Oh
because
shit!
Taylor's microwaving in the next room. So, of course, for right now, she just finished work,
Nice.
and so I just need a one moment. I think she's done. I heard enough to know you're asking me if I have a story nomination for last year, and honestly, no. I guess like if I had to nominate one, I just for the sake of nominating something, I guess I would put out Deathloop, but that's only because I was interested in the story, even though I don't like how it ended. Like it did
Yeah.
pull me along the whole time. So, what's your argument for Omori? Because I already forget what that game is.
Yeah, that's the RPG banker game that came at the beginning. Fucking best story of the year by far, in my opinion. Amori hit me like a absolute train. That was one of those ones like the last hour of that game, my face was wet. Like the last while was just a
um.
absolute tear fest.
Oh,
It
okay.
was rough, honestly. A lot of tears from that one, but it was good. Good tears. So I think we can say that one wins by default, right?
Yeah, I don't have a nomination really for
Okay.
that, so I'm not gonna argue anything.
Okay, cool. All right, best category. Next category is best gameplay. Nick, what's your nomination?
My nomination is Curse of the Dead Gods, which I was playing it on Game Pass earlier this year, and so now that I think about it, let me just double check, because like I assume when I wrote this down way back that I checked this, but I mean, when did it actually come out? Was it initial release
February
date March
23rd.
3rd, 2020? No, it says
2021.
March 3rd, 2020 was the original release date. I can't count that. What is this? Who am I? I'm just pathetic.
Well, launched on Steam in 2021, so I'll count it.
Well, I want to give some attention to that game, so I'm just gonna let that count because that was the year
All
that it
right.
came out on Game Pass, and so that game plays fantastic. It has great mechanics in there. It's got parrying, it's got dodging, it's got light attacks, got heavy attacks, got range attacks, got combos, got all kinds of builds. And I think that being able to make a game that has all those features play very well and make sense and make it very clear when you're taking damage and doing crits and avoiding damage and just like understanding what's the flow of the game is and what's happening. I think it's like really important that it plays very well, and you want it to be responsive, especially if you are doing randomized dungeons, traps, and hidden enemies and whatnot. You want to be able to react in that moment you realize you're in trouble. So that is my nomination, and yeah, what's yours?
My nomination is Forza Horizon 5. I had a hard time picking between like this one, It Takes Two, and probably like Resident Evil. Because there was some, I don't know, all those games I think played fucking phenomenally. But I think what makes Forza stand above those is the way that it takes a genre, and even more so than the prior iterations, I would say. It takes a genre that is traditionally very niche, and makes it fun even to people who don't know shit about racing, don't know shit about cars, which I think is so awesome. And a lot of the features that they added in 5 seemed directly built to that. And they managed to do that without taking away from the fun of like a core fan like me or someone like that. Someone like me. But stuff like where they added when you're jumping into a race, there's like a suggested car for to use. I think that's such a cool feature. Because a lot of it isn't just like which one's the fastest car. Certain races you might want something slower or something that's just built differently than a McLaren. Um, so I don't know. I think Forza just manages to make that so accessible and still so fun to every audience who might want to play it. I think it definitely deserves a nod for that.
I agree, deserves a nod, but like I don't know. I think it's way easier to make a driving game drive well than it is to make a game that has combat in it actually be fun. And I know that not everyone might think that is good or not true, but I mean, I've played a lot of like roguelike games. I played a lot of
Mhm.
games where there's a lot of combat in them, and if it doesn't feel good, it's just not going to carry the game. And really, for a game like this, where this is like all you're doing all the time is just combat, just like I guess Forza, honestly, like I'll admit that it's like you got to have good combat. So I really don't know how to back down on this one because I really feel like this game holds its own very well when it comes to the top-down action roguelike kind of combat. I don't think many games nail it, and I think this one does a fantastic job. Whereas I think I could point at a lot more games that feel good when you're driving in them. And they're
So
not
my
even all
counter
racing
argument to
games.
that would be like I feel like most of the time, for me at least, when I jump into a like an open world game or something that has driving in it, I usually find it kind of unsatisfying. Like the most recent example being like
Mm,
Cyberpunk, which I thought had pretty typical level driving in it, where it just
mhm.
feels off. And I think for me, a lot of that is because Forza has ruined racing mechanics for me, where other games feel bad by comparison. Um, but at the same time, yeah, I think these are kind of similar games that they're focused around like one specific thing and then nail that one specific thing
They
to
really
like
both are.
near perfection. Yeah. So honestly, I'm willing to give this one to you.
Let's just call it a tie on this one. They both do such a good job. I don't think there needs to be a winner on this. This world's all focused around no losers, right? So let's just give it to everybody and move on to the
Fair
next one.
enough. Yeah. All right, sweet. Next category is most innovative. Nick, what's your nomination on this one?
Most innovative. I wrote, I don't know. I I have a lot to say when we get to game of the year, but just to touch on it, like if I seem like just uninterested, it's like I honestly most of the games I played this year were from other years, and I had a blast with a lot of them, but almost everything that came out this year just didn't blow my mind. So that's why I'm very like this about a lot of these categories. So I'm kind of, for me, I feel like out of what I've played, and again, this is out of what I've played from this year, not out of what's come out this year, right? This is what I've played. I feel like I'm just kind of looking at, there's like a handful, maybe there's like 5 things I played from this year, and I'm like, okay, so how do I choose a category out of those, right? So for most innovative, I guess I guess maybe I would give it to. It's funny, but 12 minutes because I haven't played a game like that.
Mm.
I
That's
didn't
true,
enjoy
honestly.
it a ton. I didn't enjoy it a ton, but I played through the whole thing with Taylor, and
But I think most of
and
that was the writing more than it was like the actual like mechanic design of it, right? For me, at
was
least.
most innovative. Or is that like just talking gameplay, or is that just as in the game as a whole? Because if I'm talking just like the
Just
game
in the
as a
game as a
whole,
whole. Yeah.
then I'd say 12 minutes still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like most of the reason why I didn't like it was because I just thought that the writing was bad. And in a
Mhm.
game focused around story, that's a big part of it. But I would agree. I think it was actually pretty innovative in the way that it like um didn't necessarily land a lot of its ideas, but the way it tried to tie in its narrative with its mechanics in terms of having
Mhm.
you like push yourself into the next beats in a very player driven way, I think is pretty neat.
I mean, the fact that it was so different and I thought innovative is like
Mhm,
that the whole reason I got pulled into wanting to try it in the first place.
mhm.
Um, but what's yours? What's your nomination?
My pick is Before Your Eyes, which, if you're not familiar, is a game that you play entirely with your eyes. So it's a narrative game, and then basically you're reliving memories. And when you blink, you go to the next memory, and you can kind of blink to interact with stuff. But I think it's such a different form of storytelling that on its surface seems like, well, that just kind of sounds like a movie with like a gimmick attached to it, but the way it's implemented ends up just so much more than that and draws you into the story in such a unique way that I've never experienced before. um I have talked about this game on the show before, so I won't go too deep into it, but I think just that core mechanic is something I've never seen before, and uh has was just implemented with such great effect, like on the first try, that's definitely my pick.
Yeah, actually, and you explaining it there, I don't even need to argue that one. That sounds really cool, and it is the kind of thing that you'd be looking for in this category. So
It's also like 2 hours and fairly cheap, so it's one that I would super recommend anyone who's like, oh, that like if it sounds at all interesting to you, go play it. It's a pretty low investment. It's one I really, really want to come to Game Pass, honestly, because it's so perfect for that. Because you can just tell anybody to play it, and there's no excuse not to. Um, but yeah, anyways, next category. This one I'm sure we can have some good conversation on. It is
oh yeah,
best OST. Nick, what's your nomination?
dude. I mean, okay, here's where I get excited. Here's where I'm gonna get fired up. Deathloop has a fantastic OST. I love that game's music, and I've listened to that soundtrack on repeat. Like I can't even count how many mornings at work. So for those who don't know, I work at like 5 in the morning, and
Mhm.
I get like 3 hours to listen to music or listen to a podcast or something. And there was like a good many amount of days after that launch that I was able to just listen to that on Spotify on repeat. And I just loved it so much. I don't know, just something about the mood it gets me in is just perfect. It was just perfect. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, my pick is gonna be Sable. That was I actually bought the vinyl for that. I pre-ordered it. It's coming at some point.
Okay, you
But
can't tip the scales because you bought it.
That's my argument. It's good enough for me to
Yeah.
buy the vinyl. But Sable's one of those games that like makes a moment that wouldn't be that emotional simply because of the soundtrack. Like the moment for me was kind of like a Death Stranding type moment where I was just like flying my glider and a certain song hit in just the right way, and it like became such an emotional moment, even though I'm just like traveling from place to place.
Hmm.
Um, so it hit me in a pretty strong way, and that's again one of those ones I keep finding myself returning to. It's in a bunch of my playlists, stuff like that. Um, I have a hard time arguing against Deathloop though, because Deathloop is a game that didn't like. I would say hasn't clicked with me a ton, especially over time. But
Hmm.
the soundtrack is pretty fucking banger and fits like the mood of that world so well.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
it's one of those things like similar with Sable. I'd say the game wouldn't be half as good if its soundtrack was half as good. You know, like the soundtrack I think does a lot of heavy lifting for the vibe and the atmosphere and the fun of existing in that world. Um, for me at least. And so I'm definitely willing to give it to you on Deathloop on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it in my podcast before, or in our podcast before, where uh it's one of, if not the only first, like the only game I can think of that where like the title screen music got me like kind of nodding away, like, oh, this is gonna be a good game. I'm excited. And like I know a lot of people bash it, but like it was a good game. I really liked it. I really liked that game a
Mhm.
lot. But yeah, that music, like I don't have a title screen get me excited to play a game very often. It's usually, the silence, you hear like the wind or something, you just see like a character standing there and looking at the distance or whatever, or it's just like a
Mhm.
menu. But I don't know, I've really really enjoyed that, and I think the last game I had that feeling with was maybe Twilight Princess. So
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. Um,
Yeah, I always love
yeah.
when title screen music like kind of steals the show. Like I feel like you said, it's often usually like very background music. Like it's meant to draw you in, but not like be a banger. But yeah, Deathloops is like that. Honestly, Sable is like that. Like I had a similar experience where I opened it up and hit the menu screen. I was like, oh shit! Like this is one of those games. Um,
See,
I'm trying
I've
to think of
tried
ones before
Sable,
that, but
and I didn't find, I don't remember any of the music myself.
interesting. I
I
mean,
only
a
played
lot
an
of it's
hour, but
yeah. I don't know. It stuck with me. But
yeah. No,
yeah,
totally
I'm
not trying to take away from
abs-
that. Just
absolutely willing to give it to Deathloop on this one, just because I think both are totally deserving of it.
all right. Best indie game. What's your
All right.
nomination?
So best indie, my nomination is, um, man, I wrote Amori down, but I'm starting to second guess myself. I'm just gonna go with Amori anyways. Amori, um, again, it's hit me in such a awesome way. Like this came out the very beginning of the year, and has stuck with me since then, which hasn't happened with a lot of games that came out in the beginning of the year. Like games like Hitman 3 that I played early and was like, oh shit, this game fucking rocks. This is totally gonna be a
Mhm.
game of the year contender. And then by the end, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's good, but it's not like hitting the same way. But Emoria has just stuck with me so hard. I think it's so surprisingly good for what it is. Like I think RPG Maker games are often not nearly as refined as Amori is, and judging by the fact that it was in development for I think literally like 10 or 12 years. You
Oh,
can
really?
you can see why. Yeah, it has a lot of fucking love behind it. And I really got to give it to that one.
All right. My nominee is It Takes Two. Because I mean, it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and that's not why,
For good
but
reason.
but I mean, like, there's good reason. Like, I mean, this game plays very well. It varies its gameplay quite a bit, which is really, really fun, and I've had a blast playing it. I'm closer to the end, but I'm still not done with that game. But I've played enough to know that it's my favorite indie for the 2021 for sure. Um,
Mhm.
it's just a blast to play with Taylor, and I don't get to play a lot of games with her. She's not captured by a lot, and I think we're gonna try to finish it tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm honestly, It Takes Two was the one where I was like, do I want to go with the more? Because It Takes Two was like almost gonna be my pick for this. I'm super willing to let this win, just because I think Amori was my favorite indie of the year, but I don't know if I would say it's the best, if that makes
Right.
sense. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
makes
It
sense.
Takes Two is definitely like a more polished game than it. So I'm solidly willing to let that one win because yeah, it is such a trip. I finished it. Same thing. I started it like the day it came out, and I only finished it I think a month or two ago.
Hmm.
Because it was just like I don't know. I played it with my partner and my friend just like slowly over time as we went. But it just is so fun to pick up and play. Like every level is just every level is like a complete short game. Um,
Hmm.
which is
Totally.
so cool. And every level is a really, really good complete short game. And that's fucking cool.
They do co-op puzzles really well too. Like the way
Yeah,
you work
yeah, for
together
real.
is so clever, or just not too hard, but just like tricky enough to make you think and go,
Mhm.
"Oh, that's awesome! I feel smart," and you
And
have
they
a good
never
time.
hit that like that overcooked territory where you just kind of start to hate the person you're playing with, you know? Like
Yeah,
it
yeah, or
always
Super
feels
Mario
friendly.
Bros.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like you can still mess with each other and like have fun in that way, but
Hmm.
I never felt like legitimately frustrated with the person I'm playing with, which has
Yeah,
absolutely happened in other games in its ilk. Um, yeah, It Takes Two is fucking awesome.
awesome. So, best art direction is the next category for us to go over. Uh, ooh, I see yours. Okay, so what's your nomination?
So my nomination is this was a game club game, right?
Yeah, it was. We both
Think?
played this
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So mine is Genesis Noir, which that was a while ago. It's like a kind of adventure, wordless narrative type thing that has the coolest, like very spacey, but also it's a noir story about the genesis and death of the universe, which
Yeah.
is super like high scope and whatever you want to say about it, but like I think it really nails it. And most of that is because of its art direction, the way it draws its characters and immediately makes things relatable, even though it's about things that are really fucking unrelatable, like the Big
Hard to
Bang and
comprehend.
black holes. And yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
makes really complex shit feel really personal, which I think is so dope. And again, most of that is because of the music and the art direction. Um, so yeah, that was just like the most visually stunning game I played all year for sure.
Yeah. So actually I do agree with you, but I now that you've brought that one up, because I forgot about that game completely. So but my nomination is it was still Death's Door. And I do want to just shout it out because I do think like while it was a good game,
Mhm.
like it just didn't stand out as like something super unique and special, like it very, Zelda inspired. I didn't find it to be like a game of the year contender or anything crazy like that, but I do want to give it a nod because I do think that developer did a really great job. I wish I could remember their name, like which developer it was, but like the art style was consistent. All the characters were cute. I liked the style of it. It looked great.
It's so charming.
Very charming. Yeah, that's a great word to describe it. So, but still, I think art direction wise, if I was to write down like best art direction, I would definitely go with Genesis Noir. I'd agree with you on that one. That game
Sick.
was
Yeah,
very striking.
Death Door is really charming though. Like like the character designs managed to be like so creative and cute. Um yeah, good looking game. This was honestly art direction, I would say of all these categories was the category that I had the hardest time picking because there were
Hmm.
so many really really fucking good looking games this year. Um like Genesis Noir, like Sable, this is a very Ziggy thing, but I think Cruelty Squad looks awesome, even though it's very deliberately ugly. Like that artist, a lot of his work outside of the game has become like some of my favorites. It's just so like gross and disturbing in a way that hits me just right.
Right.
Deathloop looks fucking awesome, honestly. Like
Yeah.
there's and even like stuff like Forza Horizon 5, which is less artsy, I still think manages to hit it so well in terms of like making Mexico feel so like fun and vibrant and just like a big old beach vacation in a super fast car. Um Fucking
It
awesome year for art direction.
it's really cool that we have like two indies as our choices for our direction too. When you think of these like
True, yeah.
big companies and all the resources they have, even if it is a work from home situation. I mean, a lot of you got like a pretty much a 2D game, Genesis Noir, that like
Mhm.
that you can like get a lot of I guess the work from home can translate a little easier that way, but still, it's like it's pretty cool to see those as our top picks.
Mhm. All right. last category. It's the big one. So
Here's the
we
big
we
one.
each have our top 5 for this one. We're gonna list, and it is game of the year. Nick, what's your top 5?
Uh, so I've been thinking about a little, something a little funny for this one. Technically, I played Elden Ring in 2021.
Okay. Okay.
I played like 15 hours of that game. So I mean, if I can't choose that, then I also played Redacted, and that's not out, but that was also probably would have been my choice as well. So besides that, my top 5, and I really think I might have only played 5 of 2021 games this year, is Deathloop, Resident Evil Village, Death's Door, Halo Infinite, and then I had Curse of the Dead Gods on here, but I just don't know if I feel right about putting that on there if it didn't come out this year. At least for this category.
I'm gonna be honest with you, because that Elden Ring demo was so big. I'm willing to let you put that on there.
I appreciate that. I don't want to though, because it'll be my game of the year next year probably. So I can't do that.
True.
But yeah, and so actually, go ahead and do your nominations, and then I have something to say.
Okay, so my list is number 1, Amori. Number 2, Resident Evil Village. Number 3, Forza Horizon 5. Number 4, Cruelty Squad. And number 5 is Before Your Eyes.
I don't think I remember Before Your Eyes or Cruelty Squad, and only Amori because you just talked about it like twice.
Before Your Eyes, I also just talked about. Cruelty Squad is the one that.
Oh,
looks,
what? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It looks like a video game.
Wow, game of the year. Just joking.
But no, Cruelty Squad. I mean, I could talk about all these games. I probably shouldn't.
Yeah,
just for the sake of time. But honestly, I'm gonna be real with you, because we're playing the game here. I'm gonna put Resident Evil Village up to my number 1. So my new
that's
list
very
is
interesting.
Resident Evil Village, Amori, Forza Horizon 5, Cruelty Squad, and Before Your Eyes.
All right. Before we continue, I just wanted to say, because I think this is important, so you feel free to explain yourself if you want or not. But for me, like, I think it's important to share like what the game of the year is based on per person, because everyone has their own criteria for what game of the year is, and people might think it's like the best game ever made in their opinion, or it's something that made them laugh a lot, or it's something, you know what I mean? Like, it's everyone can have a different reason why it's their game of the year. And so like for me, my like what I base my choice off of is typically what can push the games industry forward in some way or another. Like I really liked with The Last of Us Part 2, like facial capture, like the face capture, and like all the way they told the story, and just the way the production value of that game really just pushes what you expect a game to be. And when you look at like God of War in a similar way, or Zelda Breath of the Wild with the way you can imagine an open world to be, that was like really, really amazing. And you see a lot of people comparing open worlds to Breath of the Wild now, or like, oh, I can't climb that now. Like, I thought that would just be a thing people do now, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
So that's like something I normally would use as my criteria to really to decide on what I want, you know, to see from the next game of the year. And that's, you know, typically that is why indie games might not be my choice all the time. But this year, I don't have any game that I've played that actually meets that category, so I'm changing my criteria for this year. For me, it's what I've had the most fun playing, and what I have the memories of the most fun playing. And so that I just wanted to make that clear, that is what my choice is based off of for 2021. What about you, Zig?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's about like the sum of all its parts, where like the reason I bumped Amori down and Resident Evil Village up is because I think Amori has an amazing story, really good art direction, really good soundtrack, but like its actual like the more gamey elements of it, I think aren't as good. I still like them, but they're not as good as other games on this list. Whereas Resident Evil Village, I think, has a dumb but very fun story. I think like it looks great, it plays great, sounds great. Like all of its parts, I think, are just like it's the sum, right? It's the sum of all its parts, I think, is what makes it my number 1.
Absolutely. So are you saying that's your game of the year then? so I didn't even put
Resident
numbers
Evil
on
Village.
mine.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Resident Evil Village is my game of the year.
That's fun because that's mine too. I'm
Oh,
not even
sick.
kidding. Because yeah, when I think back to this last year and I think of games I had fun with, Deathloop is up there for sure. Like I had a lot of fun playing that game, but I was like, I went through platinum that done. I have no desire to go back and play it. Right now, like Resident Evil Village is a game I want to go back and play again. I don't know when I will,
I
but
went back to it, and
I know
I got a decent chunk into a replay on it.
nice. And like I know I want to. I know I will at some point. Um but when I think back to my playthrough, and I even have some of those episodes up on on the channel here of me playing through with Taylor. Of course, she's shy and didn't want to be on screen, but it was so much fun. And I like we were drinking and just going through the game, getting scared, and being able to enjoy all those environments, having the variation from like a creepy werewolf village to like a vampire beautiful castle to like swampy water like fishing village, and then like haunted house with dolls. Like all those environments and different like situations were so cool, and I think all the set pieces were fantastic. Different bosses were all really cool. The gameplay was fun. I always bashed on the combat, like the sound of the guns and stuff like that, and I stand by it. But that doesn't matter. This doesn't make the game bad, I don't think. And I just think that the game is like, just for how much fun I had, and how, like you said, the sum of all of its parts. Just when I think about it, I can't really pick at anything necessarily as being terrible.
Not
And
much, yeah.
I really enjoyed the whole production value of it. And for a game that on PS5 is like, for me, like $90, I think. And it's like crazy to think I got it, played it for about a week with Taylor, had so much fun that I felt like that was worth it. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I think it is absolutely the most fun game I played this year. I think It Takes Two is also up there, but I think that this just has so much more to offer than It Takes Two, in terms of like it does a similar thing where it feels like you every level feels like a different horror movie, if that makes sense. Like there's
Yeah.
the doll house that feels almost like Saw-esque, and like the puzzles and that sort of thing. Um and there's like the sort of grotesque body horror of the factory. Like they're all different
Oh, right.
genres. And that's so fucking cool. And they're all, against, like, just like It Takes Two, they're all really, really good. Like you could take any one of those sections and stretch it into a full 12-hour game, and it would be a great 12-hour game. But the
Mhm.
fact that they do cut it into just like these really well-paced, bite-sized chunks of like briefly exploring something just makes it so breezy and so fun to get through. I am really surprised how much like hate there is for this game out there. Where I've heard a lot of people talk about it as a disappointment, and that is kind of insane to me because I had so much fun with it and I thought it was so well designed
Mhm.
that I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just like what I look for in a Resident Evil is different than what other people might look for, but for me it did everything that I wanted it to do. And that's also coming from someone who wasn't really hyped for this game. Like I played RE7 a bit before it came out, I think, and I liked RE7. Um but I still wasn't like, "Oh, I need to play this day 1," until
Right.
like I don't know, something clicked before. I think I just heard a couple of reviews. They were like, "Oh, this game actually kind of seems like it might be up my alley." Um
I
and I
probably
think
talked about it a bit too.
yeah, yeah, and I think some of it was, like, seeing that it wasn't just the castle, because the marketing only
Mm.
showed the castle, and the castle wasn't that interesting to me. Seeing there was so much more than that, like, pushed me towards it and ended up being such a sleeper hit for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that let's talk about it a little bit longer because like it's just fun, and it is our game of the year. What was your favorite zone or like environment set piece that you got to experience? Because I agree with you. Like I wasn't as excited about the vampire like castle part. For me, it was like the haunted house with the dolls and stuff because I find that the most creepy, and so I had the most
Mhm.
fun playing that with Taylor. What about you?
Yeah, I think the the dollhouse, either the dollhouse or the factory, I would say is my favorite. I know a lot of people thought that the factory was kind of slow. I think just
Oh no.
aesthetically really liked what it was doing. Um with like the kind of body horror, like mechanical monsters that
Oh
were in there.
yeah.
The like propeller head boss fight was one of the more memorable moments for me. Like the first thing, also like the boss of that area. Um it's not Heisenberg, is it? It's Breaking
No,
Bad.
No, it's the big werewolf guy with the big hammer.
No, the boss of
Huh.
Dead Zone. It's the cowboy dude with like the telekinesis powers.
It is him?
Yeah, of the factory. But he's like
Oh,
the most standout villain in that for me, just because he's so
oh yeah.
fucking charismatic. Like
The Nicolas
whenever he
Cage guy.
talks,
No, that's what he
yeah,
sounds like.
totally, yeah. And he's just so fucking charismatic and likable every time he's on screen. And having him
Mhm.
talk to me the whole time, and like when he pushes you in the room with the propeller head guy, and like the way that's shot with like the really stark
Yeah.
lighting behind him, and like the just how terrifying that noise is. Like that was such a fucking cool moment. Um, but
I'm
also, yeah, the
jealous.
doll the dollhouse is so cool too. Like usually levels in games so they take away your weapons. They're like, all right, now you get to solve puzzles for an hour. Is usually the part that I hate and just want to get past as quick as possible. But they
Mhm.
made it so enticing in this where like the way they lull you into that sense of comfort where you're at first like, all right, when does it get scary? When are there enemies? And then
Yeah.
they drag you on with that long enough to the till you're the point like, oh, okay, I think this is just like kind of a break. Like they're just giving me some puzzles. It's gonna be all good. And
Like there
then
might be a jump scare.
yeah, yeah. And then right as you start to think that, it's like, no, nah, that's not what this is.
You
It's
get
so fun.
chased. Yeah.
Yeah, with the big baby.
Oh man, that's some of the greatest moments of hearing. Like that's what I love is just hearing Taylor scream in fear right beside me as we're playing a scary game. Probably one of my most favorite things in life. That's probably terrible. But yeah, they were great. They're great moments. That's a great game, and I'm so glad that we both had the same thought. And it's kind of funny that we
Yeah,
did like
totally.
whole circle around to back to this game when it came out in what was it, May, April? I
Something
think it
like
was
that
May.
earlier in the year, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
'Cause, yeah,
Well,
I think both of us weren't like super high on it coming to release. Like I
no,
know you were more excited for it than I was, but like we were by no means expecting it to be game of the year. Like
no, not
I
at all.
definitely not me. Yeah. But it's so cool it jumped to that. And then now this is making me want to go back and play prior Resident Evil games. Like at this point, I kind of want to try Resident Evil 2 remake. I want to try Resident Evil 4 VR, which just came out. Actually, I really want to try that one out. I have a feeling I'm gonna like that. Um,
I think you'll like that one. I'd love to
yeah,
watch you play that.
playing in VR seems like a lot of fun, especially since it's like not the scariest Resident Evil, but like I don't know. I love a good VR shooter, and I think the game is perfect for that platform. But we should probably move on to the other big topic of the show.
Yes, yes. Uh, we had the big news happen this month where we found out Microsoft was acquiring Activision Blizzard for basically $68.7 billion. That's a lot of dough. A lot more than I get paid, that's for sure. If we're looking at what is this link that you sent me? Just Microsoft.com's news. It was a little blog post, I guess, from January 18th.
Yeah.
Um,
So basically, 16% billion. The big things are that these were like there's a bunch of tweets and reports and like a million different articles, so it's kind of hard to like source all of it. But the seems like the gist is call like existing contracts will be honored, which means Call of Duty is going to remain multi-plat for a fair bit of time. Um, and seems like Bobby Kotick will be getting the boot when the deal is done. If not him getting the boot, it seems like he's going to be uh, just on his way out of his own accord or whatever.
yeah, I
Um,
don't think Microsoft can keep them on and like
no,
have that be a good look. You know, it just can't.
no.
It can't happen.
So top level, Nick. This is, I think, the biggest question on everyone's minds. Do you think that this is overall a good thing for the industry and for us as gamers?
I love that question, Zig, because I think you and I are very different on this one. Might
Mm,
be wrong, but I actually think it's a good thing. I think it's a. I actually am not worried about, uh, the consolidation of all these companies going together. Like, I assume you and a lot of people. I assume I know a lot of people are. I'm not worried
mhm.
about it whatsoever because I do feel like there's always, like, every studio starts out as an indie at some point, and there's always opportunity, and there's more opportunity than ever for small studios to start up and create their own company and to actually make their own
Mhm.
IP, make their own game, and to grow and to become beloved, right? So I don't think bigger companies, swallowing the middle-sized ones and like acquiring their IP really does anything major. But I'm also the
Mhm.
kind of gamer who, like, I love Legend of Zelda, for example, right? I love
Mhm.
that franchise. But if for some reason I was not able to play Zelda ever again because someone bought it that I don't support or whatever, like, I would be bummed, but I wouldn't, like, I'm like, okay, well, off to the next Zelda like game. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If it was as an example here, looking, with them acquiring Activision Blizzard, if they bought, if they made Overwatch, exclusive, and I didn't like Microsoft anymore, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna look for a different Overwatch like game. I'm just kind
There's
of,
no
I go
lag.
where. So yeah, so I don't know. I'm not as like attached to IP. If same with From Software, actually, even let's say they acquired From Software, if Microsoft did that, and let's say I only had a PS5, right? Then I would be like, well, damn, I really like those games. I would go over there, no problem. But if I say I didn't like Microsoft, I would be like, well, I guess I'll play Mortal Shell, or I'll play Salt and Sanctuary, or I'll play like other Souls-like games that I think are really interesting. And sure, they might not give me the same exact feeling, but I would be excited every time someone releases a game that they say is Souls-like. Play the Surge or something else. Just try all these other games, and um, I think there's just always opportunity for other studios to grow and to become beloved and become its own double A or triple A third party studio. And so I'm not super worried about the bigger ones acquiring it, making it part of their subscriptions and whatnot. What
Yeah,
about
so
you?
honestly, I actually agree with a fair bit of what you're saying.
Oh, cool.
Except you're right. I am consolidation in the games industry does worry me. Um, but with this acquisition specifically, like my first gut reaction was, yeesh, this doesn't sit well with me because Activision Blizzard is, one of the big boys, and having, you have your big 6 or 7 uh third party publishers, and having, like, when you have that few going down to 5 and then 4 is like kind of scary to me. The thing with Activision, though, like, that aside, I think Activision being bought by Microsoft is going to be a net good for the industry because Activision is a shithole. Um, they
Yeah.
have been pretty fucking creatively void for the last while. Um, Putting out a lot of Call of Duty, letting someone make something cool once, and then being like, all right, time to be a Call of Duty sports studio now that you've grown to a point of success. Um,
Yeah.
Blizzard has been, not releasing things of their former quality. With, so like Warcraft 3 Reforged, I know people fucking hated. Um, it's been a downhill spiral for a while. And I think them being under a company like Xbox, that at the moment at least seems to be having a culture that is very different than that, will be a definitely net benefit for the people who work there. Having Bobby Kotick out, having a being under a company that seems from the outside looking in to have a better culture within it, definitely it seems will be good for the people working there. But I think also this will be a great thing for us because shit that we want to see and have been asking to see for a long time will, I think, start to finally happen. Like, we got a Crash 4 that people really, really liked, and then the studio got shelved on Call of Duty. But I think having it be on another company, there's a chance for Toys for Bob to be making something cool again, and have Vicarious
Yeah.
Visions doing something cool again. Like, have another good Tony Hawk game that isn't a remake. That would be awesome. I'd be so stoked about that. Um, and definitely not to say that I think there's a lot of people saying like, oh, now, Microsoft might take away Call of Duty from being yearly or some of that stuff. I don't necessarily think they'll do that just because you don't spend $70 billion on what is essentially a money printing machine with the Call of Duty franchise to have the production of said money printing machine. But I do think that with the insane wealth of IP that Activision has and wealth of really, really talented studios, um, I think we could finally start to see some stuff from even from Call of Duty itself, but just from the company as a whole, that is going to be of a better quality than we've seen in the last while, and that makes me really
Mhm.
excited.
Yeah, I think that having the option to put out Call of Duty not every year, or take more creative freedoms with different franchises, is going to be fantastic. You said all the detail
Yeah.
stuff that I really wanted to say, and I'm glad you did. So I won't repeat it all. But yeah, my comments were just more top level. But yeah, getting into it, it's like I totally agree with everything you said. Absolutely. I just love how much people talk about, is Call of Duty going to be exclusive? Is it going to be
Mhm.
on PlayStation? And then everyone can dissect that in every which way possible. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter, because ultimately it will be eventually exclusive on
I
Xbox.
think so, yeah.
Who
On
knows how
some
long
level, at
that'll
least.
be? Yeah, yeah.
I think my guess is we'll still see things like Warzone as a multi-plat thing. Like they've said they're not going to pull Warzone, and I think that Warzone is going to be supported for quite a while yet. But I think your main line release Call of Duties after a few years, yeah, I mean, A, they're going to be releasing on Game Pass, which is huge, and B, I do think, yeah, they're going to start to become exclusive. Which for Microsoft, I think is a smart play, because at this point, having a great partnership with EA, meaning they get the new EA Sports titles on Game Pass pretty damn quick, and having this partnership, or having owning Activision and getting Call of Duty on Game Pass day one, they have almost entirely cornered that core casual market of gamers who buy FIFA, buy Call of Duty every year, and that's kind of it. And now those people, if they're looking to play games, they might only be able to Call of Duty on one platform, and they can
Mhm.
get both those games for, under that subscription plus a bunch of other stuff that they might be into. So it's like kind of a no-brainer at that point. If you're a casual gamer, like, get an Xbox. And good on them. I think that is, from business standpoint, a really good market to capture. I mean, you saw it on the Wii. Like, the Wii was a success because of the casual market. And this is a different type of casual, but I think it's a good pull.
Absolutely. We also got the news this month that that PlayStation is buying Bungie in
So
like a
strange.
very odd deal. And
Yeah.
just to go to the PlayStation blog here, uh, written by Jim Ryan, CEO, of course. We got. I really want to read just like the first little bit of this statement, because I think it's the most weird way to announce that we're buying a game developer. So he writes, "Today I am happy to announce Bungie will be joining the PlayStation family. First off, I want to be very clear to the community that Bungie will remain an independent and multi-platform studio and publisher. As such, we believe it makes sense for it to sit alongside the PlayStation Studios organization, and we are incredibly excited about the opportunities for synergies and collaboration between these two world-class groups." So I just find that just wild that they're going to be self-publishing, and that they are kind of like, they're still pretty much independent while also owned by Sony. Like, I don't understand. It's just weird to like say, I own you, but you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
and
It's a
actually mean
weird
it
one.
legally.
Yeah. So yeah, we like kind of briefly talked about this before the start of the show, but I think it seems to me like this could be a couple of things we're trying to do here. The big one being tech.
Hmm.
Obviously, it would make sense, especially since Sony's wanting to invest in some of that Xbox strategy of Project Spartacus, the sort of Game Pass competitor that's expected to come out. Um, and for services like that, having games as a service makes a lot of sense, because that's the sort of thing, just like TV shows and video streaming, like that's what keeps people coming back and continue to pay for something, is long term games. And having all that tech that Bungie has behind that, and the talent in that specific place, I think that is a big reason for buying them. What the other thing it could be for me is
Well, I hope you
kind
don't
of a
say what I was going to say.
defensive. Well, it seems almost like a defense purchase, if that makes sense,
Oh, okay.
which
Phew.
makes me a little bit nervous because, um, like, previously when you see an Xbox buy studios, it's very much an attack. It's like, we're building our portfolio so that we become the more the place you want to play.
Hmm.
Whereas this to me almost feels like we're buying this so that Facebook, or fucking Meta, or
Hmm.
Amazon doesn't buy them, and that makes me nervous because I said before, I don't love the idea of consolidation. It makes me a little bit nervous. Where it's at right now, I think is fine. Like we're not even close to a monopoly or duopoly at all.
No.
Um, but when it gets to the point where people are buying studios because they're afraid someone is going to buy them first, I think we get into weird territory where stuff gets snatched up a lot quicker and bigger, and bigger stuff getting bought than we would see otherwise. And
We just need to make an IP, and we can sell it for millions.
absolutely, yeah. Uh like Sony and Microsoft buying studios, I honestly don't care that much, especially something like this. Like Destiny is not going to change. It seems like Bungie's future IPs actually aren't going to change the way that they're published. Like it seems like they're going to stay multiplat, which is wild to me. But when you get into stuff like Amazon or Meta buying up studios, that's what I don't like because I fucking hate those companies, and like Meta recently bought or not even recently, but they bought Beat Games, who makes Beat Saber, which makes sense, but like Beat Saber has become a less open platform since then, and I don't like that. And
Right. Yeah.
whatever they
Yeah.
make next won't be on PC VR. It's going to be a Quest thing, and that's really frustrating to me. Amazon, God, that they have shown that they have very little knowledge of how the games industry works, and have
Yeah.
released and unreleased a game which I've never seen before, where they released a game
Yeah.
so fucking bad they unreleased it. Um, I don't want Amazon buying up studios. Like I know they have the Luna thing, but that makes me nervous, and
Hmm.
I'm really hoping that's not what this comes to. Like if Amazon bought Square, I would be so pissed. But yeah, that's the only thing that makes me nervous. It's not even this acquisition in particular. It's just like I really hope things don't move forward in a way that makes the industry significantly worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. That makes sense. If I could
but
just speak on the. Oh, unless you're still going.
oh, sorry,
Sorry.
yeah, you can talk.
I was just wanting before I forget about the Sony acquiring Bungie part. I
Hmm.
I have a theory as to what like the thing that they might be looking at more than because and like
Hmm.
we know Bungie wants to be independent. They've said that so much. That's why they got away from Activision and stuff. I think it was
Hmm.
very much like Sony probably approached them. It's like we want to acquire you basically, and they're like, well, we want to be independent still. So like, how can we make this work? What are you interested that we have, right? And
Hmm.
then I could see Sony just being like really interested, and this is I only know this because I've been so into Destiny back in the day and like been involved in their cross like save stuff. But I think with
Hmm.
Sony reaching out, going to PC, I think they're interested in
Oh.
possibly the tech or whatever back end stuff that Bungie is doing in order to move your saves between PC, PlayStation, and like Bungie's doing it to Xbox as well. But if maybe they're just the Sony really cares about their PlayStation and PC, being able to move your saves back and forth between your PC version of your game, maybe your trophies and all that kind of stuff, like being able to have your account progress either cross play, cross save, whatever it is. Bungie's figured it out in some way or another, and who knows how much money and time that could cost Sony to invest into learning that stuff. Maybe that is a big part of like why they wanted that company. So that's my theory right now is beyond the Bungie or but beyond Destiny and whatever else they're working on. I could see them just being like, we know we need to put our games on PC. They've been doing it, right? But we know
Hmm.
our players want to be able to continue their save between PS4 to PS5. We can only assume it's going to continue from PS5 to PC, that they're going to really want to be able to go back and forth with that. Let's like learn about this tech and all this stuff, and maybe they just go, you know what, Bungie's got it figured out. Plus they have shooters, plus they have this and that, and we can do all kinds of advertising, work like deals, or do all stuff with their
Hmm.
properties with that, and we can still let them do their own thing at the same time. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly think that's uh makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, I think especially since I know I read a news story recently that PlayStation has like 10 um games as a service games in the works, or like planned for the next decade. I
Right.
think I don't remember I don't remember the specifics. Take that with a grain of salt. But they have a lot of plans for a lot of games as a service type games, and having great cross save functionality, especially since they're, as you said, they're definitely investing in PC at this point. Makes a lot of sense, and Bungie's tech with that is fucking flawless. Like jumping
Mhm.
between PC and Xbox with your Destiny saves is so easy, and they make that such a smooth process. And I hope also that if if they are investing in better cross save tech, I hope that translates to the console itself because my lord, I hate how PlayStation deals with cloud saves. It feels 2 generations behind for some reason. It's like Nintendo shit of like, why is this still like this? This is bad.
Yeah.
Especially when compared to like, I could play Halo on my computer and boot it up on my Xbox and it has like a 2 second little like, oh, we're just getting your save data and then it's all good to go. Um, so I really hope that they up that. But uh, yeah, I again, I actually have very little negative to say about this acquisition in particular, um, because I think it's going to be good for Bungie. They got more resources. They're staying independent. They're doing what they want to do. That's awesome, and
Yeah.
it's good for PlayStation. Good for PlayStation gamers because it has that tech, and now PlayStation has more resources to do the plans that they're wanting to do, and I think that is pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Well, let's move on. That is a lot. We've talked about a lot of things. Before I forget, though, we haven't talked about Mind Scanners yet, and that was our Game Club game for
Ooh,
last month.
we did
And I was
forget.
easily
Shit.
starting to. I know. I was totally starting to forget about that, getting into Game of the Year and everything. So let's put a little bit of time into talking about Mind Scanners.
I will
I'm going to have
happily do
to
so.
really dig deep to remember because it's been like almost it's been a month, right, like since I've played it. So I
Yeah.
remember, but it was at the beginning of the month that I played it last. So
Mhm.
um let's talk about it. um Zig, how much time did you put into the game? I've put about 2 or 3 hours maybe myself,
I
maybe 4.
think I put in 6. It said. So I beat the game, which is it seems like it's meant to be replayed. I don't necessarily think I'll do so. I don't really feel the need, but I think there's different endings and you can kind of take different paths. There's
Hmm.
some like invisible choice type stuff, like depending on your performance and the way that you deal with certain situations, things will change. Um, but the basic idea is you are a mind scanner in this sort of weird like biopunk dystopia future. Um, which is an aesthetic I really dig, by the way. But basically, your goal is you're a
Yeah.
mind scanner, so you go to people who are showing signs of insanity. You go to their house, scan their brain, and determine if they are insane or not insane. And they like those very strict binary labels are also kind of like the point of the game, where there's a
Yeah,
lot of people like you're clearly not well, but you're not insane. And I had kind of like a weird process of dealing with like what to call them because that's so binary. But I thought that's cool.
that was
Um,
so tough
and
to do
then
sometimes.
yeah, and so you do that, and if they're insane, then you give them treatment, which is like a series of mini games that eventually leaves them sane. There's kind of some other things like if you don't do it good, you can leave the person like without a personality, essentially. So you still get paid the same amount, but you kind of feel like shit because you've left this person as like
Yeah,
a husk of their former self. Um, it's really cool. I really, really dug the way that it gave you those sort of invisible choices of like, all right, what do I want to do here? You are a cog in the machine for this corporate thing, or not corporate, for this like very oppressive regime that you work for. And so there's a lot of cool decisions of like, well, if I disobey them and if I do these things, I could get in a lot of trouble. My pay could go down. I don't know if I'll be able to like make rent or
yeah.
maintenance as they call it, which is a cool thing. Like you don't want to spend too much money because at the end of every day you get charged money, and if you don't have enough to do that, like I think your playthrough ends. Um,
Did
and
that not
yeah, I
happen to
think
you?
you can. No, it didn't happen to me.
Dude, I
I'm
got
too
wrecked
much of a
twice.
gamer. Oh dang.
Yeah, no, I'm not a gamer enough. I'm not good at these hard games. I only play Dark Souls.
um, yeah, no, that didn't happen to me, but it's I played Papers, Please, which I fucking sucked at, and it has a similar premise where like you run out of money, you lose. Um, but I dug that so much. There's the characters, like the people that you're talking to and mind scanning, I thought were really, really compelling for the most part, where
Yeah.
they felt pretty darn developed and well written. And some of them in kind of subtle ways. like one of them that I thought was really interesting is you go to her house and then she tells you that there's like a worm that crawled in her mouth that like tells her to do things. And at first you're like, ooh, yeesh, like we're gonna have to deal with this person. And then as you're kind of interviewing and talking to them and learning about their deal, basically this worm has just like made them a better person. Or whether the worm is real or not, who knows?
Hmm.
But like they're like, yeah, the worm told me to like donate to this food bank, and the worm told me to like help these people, and so you're doing this like going through this thing, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to cure this person. Like, I don't know who they were
Yeah.
before, and quite frankly, they seem pretty dang cool now. So like at the end of that all, I decided they were insane because I was at that point like broke and just needed the paycheck. I didn't finish it in that first day, so I came back the second day to talk to them, and they like stopped me like, "Hey, I know what you're trying to do here. The worm is telling me you really shouldn't do this. Like, and if you keep trying to do this, I might have to take some drastic action against you." And I was just like, "Okay, all right." I like let them be, and they like went off my quest list, and that was that. And I was like, that is super cool that you can choose to just kind of ignore that person and be like, I know I deemed you insane, but like I think what you're doing is good and I just kind of want to let you be. Um or other
Yeah.
times where like you can tell a person totally isn't insane, but they've got some ideas that could be dangerous to the government you work for. And so if you're
Right.
playing more of like a bad guy route, like they're telling you like, oh no, this person's insane. Like you got to treat this person. You got to get rid of these dangerous ideas and that sort of thing. Like, oh, do I want to disobey that
Yeah.
and like let them be? And I don't know. It was so interesting to me. And the
If I could
actual
just
process.
interrupt for a sec,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want
you
to
go.
I want to tell one of my only characters I can actually remember. But there's this one
Hmm.
woman who thought she was she she's like I guess a cyborg or like some like part human part robot thing.
Hmm.
I can't remember if that was. I think she was a cyborg, and then she was convinced her baby was, or she wasn't, and
Yeah.
then her baby wasn't. But then I remember like being like, okay, so she thinks her baby's a robot
And
and
also,
she wants
like,
to.
not just robot, but like robot Jesus. It's worth saying. She's convinced that her kid
Right.
would be like the messiah of machines.
And but didn't she want to get like some kind of power source or whatever to feed it, like something that would like kill a real baby? and
I think something like that. Yeah.
and then I remember thinking about it and being like, hey, so is she insane? Like, in this weird world that they
Yeah,
live
that's
in,
what's so
that
cool.
could be a thing. I could see like
Totally.
her actually having a robot baby. I don't know. And I think I deemed her insane, and like I don't remember exactly what happened after that, but I just remember being like, that was like one of those decisions where I'm like, I don't know what the right choice is here, because like in this world I could
Mhm.
see it being real. Like obviously in our world it wouldn't be, but I'd be
Yeah.
like, yo, yeah, you're crazy. But but in that world, I'm like, what if they're trying to trick me? And then I was like, am I overthinking this? And I just like that it made me think that much.
Yeah. Yeah. And they leave it pretty ambiguous. And yeah, what you're saying about like, are they insane? I think it's so cool because it's a lot of stuff that in our world would be, yes, that's not real, obviously, but the
Hmm.
world of this game is so bizarre and so alien that stuff like
Hmm.
that is like, I don't know. It could be, and yeah, I had the same moral dilemma there where I'm like, if like I don't think that this person is right about this, and if they are not right, they are not fit in this case to like care for this child if they think it's like
Hmm.
machine messiah. Um,
Yeah.
and are like you said, like the power source, not that like they could kill their child, and so is this weird thing of like I don't really know what to do here. I think I also deemed them insane, and afterwards they gave me like, oh, like of course my baby's a robot. What was I thinking? But because you like are changing the way their brain works, I had this feeling of like, is that actually the case, or have I just convinced that this lady that her baby is actually a regular baby, and things are going to go really south from here? And it's hard to tell. And sometimes you do get a follow up from that, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Like you'll
Yeah.
see a news report or get a letter or something that's like, "Hey, you fucked up here." Like this. I think one of them it was this report no, it was the hairdresser lady who had this weird she had some weird shit going on, like some violent urges and all that, and I ended up
Hmm.
stressing her out too much, and she, like, went crazy and, like, tried to bite my finger off and escaped, and then later, got a letter saying that she, like, killed someone or something like that, like, she
Right.
just went fucking psycho, and that was like, "Shit." Like, there it felt like there's actual consequences for what you're doing, and,
I think
I don't know,
I'm
it
digging deep,
just
but I think I remember a guy that was in like an apartment, and he seemed kind of sketch and kind of weird. But I remember
Mm.
thinking like, oh well, I wouldn't call him insane. He just like, I think people were talking about like either gunfire or there's some kind of like loud sounds or something coming from his apartment. So I was like checking in on this guy,
Mm.
and then I think he was like seeming a little weird, but more like, I don't know, just because he's acting weird doesn't mean he's insane. Like just because he's being
Yeah.
loud or just because he's whatever he was doing. I don't think I thought he was insane, so I left it. And then I remember I got that follow up of like, yeah, he went crazy and just like killed a bunch of people in the building. And I was like, oh, okay, well,
Yikes.
my
Yeah.
bad. Oops.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed my time with this game. I think it goes for kind of a unique idea, and I think they nailed the execution so well. Um, in the art direction, the music is totally worth talking about as well. It looks like what we said, that
Mhm.
alien vibe in the world. It nails that in the way it looks and sounds. Like the kind of bizarre character design and the weird
I
like
love the character design.
organic patterns on things. Yeah, it was.
Mm.
I am a very big fan of this game. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to finish it at all, honestly, but I'm glad I did.
Nice. Yeah, I am too. Well, I didn't finish it, but I'm glad I got to play it. And I think it was a perfect Game Pass game for me at the beginning of this year.
Totally, yeah.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna skip Game Club this month then, and just for available time that we have, and we will see everybody next month for our 50th episode. Zig, number 50,
Oh
50.
shit, that's a big
Isn't
one.
that crazy? Yeah, it's super exciting. So before we go, just a reminder: if you like what you listened to or watched today, you can watch any episodes or listen to any episodes on Spotify or on I think it's Google Podcast is the other one. And if you want to support the show, just leave a like, subscribe, follow it, rate it good. Ziggy, do you want to plug anything at the end here before we go?
I did on the vertical slice. Should be going up soon, I think. We did a the best game design of 2021 episode. I think it's pretty good. You should check that out. It's very different categories for the most part than what we did here. It's a lot more game design focused. Um, and check it out if you have some time. And season 2 for vertical slice coming soon. And I think it's going to be pretty big. I'm excited about what we're doing.
It's big. All right. See y'all next time. Bye.
See ya.